Today I would like to talk about personal development, and especially I'm referring to that undervalued part of ourself that is actually developing internally. So understanding our internal processes, our psychology, what really determines our life, because at the end of the day, the actions that we put out in the world are determined by the conditionings or by the thoughts or by the state of our mind. And I think in this very time it's quite challenging for everybody, because life changes quite fast and things are unstable. Many people are concerned about economical situations. It's not a great time outside for anybody, let's say. It's quite challenging. And at the same time, I think also it's an opportunity, because never like in this moment of humanity, well, it's been going for a year now, we had the chance of not going to work, so more time to actually spend with ourselves to see what's going on, and with no chance of escaping it, because most of the time you get distracted and we find some kind of escape into mundane things. Can be drinking, can be whatever, really. There's nothing wrong or nothing right, but let's say that the possibility of going out and doing things and meeting friends, they can become quite of an excuse for not looking our internal processes. And I think it's a really underestimated thing, the personal development, because at the end of the day all the life circumstances are temporary, and only our personal growth actually will play an important role on our life on a lasting term, because all the other things will change, but this thing will be with us for we don't know how long, out of time really, for a time that goes beyond any kind of life circumstance. So the reason why, for instance, I loved Nei Qi Gong was because it allowed me to connect with this, let's say, point zero of myself, this level of my consciousness that is not really touched by life circumstances and thinking, that is as the base of myself. That is probably the only thing that can recharge my batteries fully. Because thinking concerning about life, projecting, having fears, and not be connected with the present moment, it's actually the root of our problem, and the root of the fact that we act in a very not really effective way in life. Because when we are moved by fears, we are confused. When we project too much into external circumstances, so we have expectation, it's not easy to see actually the things that need to be done. It's not easy to see even to put things into order, because only by having clarity inside we can actually make the right choices, we can actually pursue the things that really have a value for us, and then we can even make a plan and submit it to life, because at the end of the day we do not decide how things will go. We kind of plant a seed outside, and we see how things develop, which seed is going to flourish, which seed just is going to die, is not going to produce anything. So it's all down to be connected with ourselves, being centered. Whatever this word might mean for you. For me, it means actually to see clearly and to have the ability of not living an internal war between my thinking, my emotions, and my actions. It's very difficult to be a human being, and it's really difficult when life keeps on changing, because these three levels can get very easily unbalanced. We can become more focused on the thinking. Other times we be kind of develop feelings of disliking or liking certain things, and other times we just don't feel like to make some actions, because if we have no clarity, we don't have a drive, then we feel like kind of depressed, we don't want to do things. And this is why for me it's really important to take those 40 minutes, 50 minutes per day, 1 hour per day, where I disappear completely. And that is for me the practice of Nei Qi Gong, actually, the possibility of turning off everything and just working with my body using a science that Nei Qi Gong has in its system that allows the development, the cultivation, and the really contact with this thing called energy that sounds very abstract, but actually it becomes quite a practical experience. Because many people talk about chakras, they talk about energy, but talking is not the fact. And for me, the possibility of taking those 50 minutes, 40 minutes per day and dedicating myself fully to this practice really helps me to center and then to act in life in a more practical and effective way. I'm a guy who has been interested always in personal development, spirituality, mysticism, all this kind of stuff. All things that they don't have value in this world because you don't get money for it, right? You don't get paid to grow as a person. And no one really encourages you, even friends and family, to do this kind of work because very few people understand the real meaning of it. But the real meaning is enormous because when we grow by understanding our cage, our conditionings, our internal processes, then what we are able to express into the world grows exponentially. I'm really grateful to be here and to actually teach Nei Qi Gong because for me it was the way it works for me. There are many methods outside, but for me it was the one that really resonated because I'm kind of rebel, let's say. I don't like ideas, I don't like religions, I don't like... I've been into this. and I saw that I was wasting lots of my time in creating new fantasies about reality. And Nei Qi Gong I found a really practical way to come down to this point zero of my activity. So almost the ability of being passive and active at the same time. When I mean passive, I mean the possibility of really being in full observation of what's happening inside and outside me. And when I say inside, I mean my internal thinking, my emotions, my internal physical perception. And when I mean outside, I mean everything that goes through my senses. And for me, it was a tool that allowed me to really put my chair into the passive side, let's say, and being able to see all the activity of life, internal and external, and coming down to a disappearance of the separation between internal experiences and external experiences, which ultimately means from the disappearance of the idea of me and the world outside. So it gave me the possibility of witnessing more reality in a more not personal way. And the implication of this is enormous. And it's something that needs to be experienced personally, because otherwise it's just an intellectual concept. Our world is fully focused on developing externally. And that's the problem, that is the reason that causes so many problems in our society. And personally, I think we are kind of animals with cars and money and televisions, all those kind of things. I think that really the human consciousness is not that developed, and in the way that it is actually possible to do. But to do that, we kind of need to focus also on the internal aspect of ourselves, to understand it and to see actually how we can transcend it. Transcending the personality is a process that takes some time. It's a process that requires some kind of adjustment, because everything in life, there is a development, and then 2 steps back, and then a bit forward, and a bit backwards again. So we kind of need to be patient at the same time with our own self and with life, because nothing goes smoothly. As we can all agree, life most of the time never goes the way that we want it. It's just the way it is. And personally, I think because the main goal of life itself is evolving. So leading the person, the individual, to evolve. Ultimately, I think that this pure awareness, this pure consciousness, this point zero that I mentioned before, gives birth to the manifestation of life, get confused with the little manifestation of the person, the thoughts, the emotions, the life circumstances, and then the process is actually unveiling those illusions to come back into a greater understanding, into a greater consciousness itself.